Kia ora and welcome to Tarmac. I'm Dave.
I'm Matthew, and today we've got the SUV without compromise. It's the Honda, and as you can see, a blue badge. It's the Honda ZR-V eHEV.
That's right, it's the Honda's new SUV that's an absolute dream to drive. Come, let's take a look at this. Look, dreams are going to be the theme of this piece, really, and it's really because of when Soichiro Honda first started the Honda Corporation. He was a mechanic with just big dreams about making a corporation that was just had a fleet of cars that were luxurious and also sporty, because he was really into his racing. And to be honest, that's what this vehicle is all about. The ZR-V is very much a sort of SUV with a sporty bent, but it's also very luxurious. For the ZR-V, Honda in New Zealand are actually bringing out two models. You've got the Turbo and you've got the eHEV, which is the Sport. And the eHEV Sport is what we've got here, so we'll talk about the engine very, very soon. But in terms of looks, it's got a nice long bonnet, lovely nose to it. And it really is an SUV, like I said, that's got a sporty bent. So looking around the front, the grille does have a bit of a gaping mouth sort of look to it, but it's also got these 10 slats in a sort of a nice sort of piano black look, so it's very attractive from there. The Honda badge has got the blue ring around it, so you know that it's got an electrical or electrical sort of bent to it. And the headlights here, nice and sleek, LEDs with these sort of sloping DRLs around here, and it's for the first time they are auto sensing and sort of very, very clever in what they do to make sure that their eyes look really forward. I mean, I don't know what that means, but they do look good at night. The other thing is you've got this air vent here that helps put lots of flow around the side and makes this a very aerodynamic vehicle. Our review model comes in what they call Nordic Frost Pearl, and I have no idea what that means. I don't know if the Nords had pearls that were frosted, but anyway, it is a very sort of Nordish blue, which is really good, and also it does stand out very nicely. I can see why it's going to be one of their hero colors. The actual car itself sits somewhere in size of around about 4.67 meters in length and around about 167 in height. And what it does, it sits between the HRV and the CRV. So it's a sort of nice little compromise in between there. Looking around the rest of it, you've got some nice trim around the wheel arches here that are color coded in Nordic Frost Pearl. Want to make sure you go in there. 18-inch feet with some actually performance tires on it, so it is a performer. The sills come round again in the same Nordic Frost Pearl, and even the door handles are in Nordic Frost Pearl. And look, a nice sloping roofline back here, which actually does bring you back down to the rear, and also your flap here, it does take 91. There's quite a lot that goes on the rear here. You've got a roofline spoiler, you've got the Honda badge in blue, you've also got Honda written in Honda, just in case you don't know what that H badge means. Also the ZR-V, your eHEV badge from there. The lights, or the tail lights, are LEDs. They're also smoking, which is good. And you've got functional exhaust tips, 2 of them, so it is twin exhaust, which is pretty good. As you go through a kicker tailgate onto the inside here, you get 370 litres of boot space, which is actually 10 less than the Turbo because of what's going on underneath, and also little flappy bits here that you can hide stuff that you want hidden. But one of the best bits about the back here is this tailgate. If I push this button, you see the green light comes on, I can carry on doing my stuff here, and then when I walk away, it will close. So I'm going to head around the front and leave you to it. What we have here is Honda's eHEV system. Actually, it's a twin motor system. So what you've got is a 2-litre engine here that provides as a generator source of energy that then powers a battery, which then sends it onto an electrical motor. And what that gives you is 135 kilowatts of power and 315 newton meters of torque, which is actually really ample for this vehicle, and all through an eCVT. What it provides as far as fuel economy is 5.5 litres per 100 kilometres, and also 126 grams of carbons out of those twin exhausts per kilometre. So quite efficient, and actually pretty good for the environment. Anyway, something that's neither of those. Matthew's inside and he'll show you what's going on in there.
Now, I may not be that green for whatever reasons, but this Honda certainly is, because it is eligible for New Zealand's clean car rebate of $2,130 specifically for this ZR-V Sport. Now, that sort of concept flows into the interior really well too, because firstly, these seats, they are actually leather appointed rather than being full leather, so you get bits and pieces that are real leather as well as bits and pieces that are faux leather. But what is constant throughout the seat is of course the heating. You get seat heating for both the passenger and the driver, and actually if you take a look at the seat itself, it's got sort of quite a low seating position. It's got a little bit of a bucketed look to it as well, and Honda say that that's actually to resemble more of the driving position you would expect from, say, a sedan rather than a traditional SUV. So it does make you feel like driving it in a slightly more sporty fashion as well than you would, say, your normal SUV. Now, the interior of this ZR-V, well, in some ways it's unmistakably Honda, but in some ways they've been a bit bold as well with this car. But what there's no two ways about is the fact that it does feel luxurious in here. You do get soft touch plastics right from the top over there, all along here too, and then down the middle, your armrest, door cards, all of that is soft touch. Of course, underneath there is some scratchy plastics. That's to be expected, but it does feel really well appointed in here. And the little bits of chrome garnishing here and there on the door, you know, surrounding the gear buttons, all make it feel that little bit more luxurious as well. Speaking of which, this, as you'll notice, is different to the Turbo, because in the Sport model they have PRND in the form of buttons rather than a gear shifter. What is the same though is your electronic parking brake, which is here, and you do also get a button here for your drive modes, of which there are 3, but we'll go into that more so on the drive. The other important bits that you need to know about this interior are firstly the storage spaces. So you've got your 2 cup holders in the front here. You've got actually a floating style center console here. As you can see, my hand comes through. You've got some fairly cavernous door bins in the front, and a good amount of space in the rear too. And of course, quite a deep glove box here actually, as well as, you know, glove box there being quite cavernous too. The other thing is you get a wireless charging pad for your phone there, and you get your 12-volt socket right by there. But the other cool thing is there is actually 2 USB ports for charging your devices on either side underneath here of this center console. And on my driver's side here, it's USB-A, and on the passenger side there, it's USB-C. So they really have got you covered in terms of all forms of charging. Now, the screen in front of you here is Honda's crystal clear design, and just look at it, everything's so neatly presented. The use of as well touch and the buttons is really nicely done, because you've got your shortcuts here, your home, back, volume, and the track, and then you've got various different touch shortcuts down the bottom here, as well as of course your main menus here. So this is the home view, and there's 3 different menus. The key thing I want to point out is the fact that it's got Bluetooth audio. You've got smartphone connection via, of course, Bluetooth, but you've also got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and then there's even some connectivity with the Honda Connect app actually, which you use through your phone to control various bits and pieces about the car. Now the navigation, that's actually a Garmin navigation system, so another neat integration of other technology into this infotainment screen. As common with hybrids, there's the power flow meter, so you click that and you get a view of the dual motors, as Dave talked about, where the engine is up front and then you've got the battery pack, or rather the motor at the back and the battery, as well as a meter on the right side showing your range, and then on the left side your liters per 100 kilometers in terms of your fuel efficiency. Now if I head back to the home screen there and move over, now you remember last time we reviewed a Honda, in particular the Jazz. The clock we found a little bit funny because the number 12 was to the right. Well, we have debunked that myth because we are journalists and found out for you that that number there is actually the date. So there you go, there's your piece of factual information. And as you saw there, going back to the screen, it is actually really quick in terms of its response and clear, even on a day like today where the sun is sort of beaming down on there. Speaking of another screen that's really clear, let's take a look at the instrument cluster. Now, the screen in front of you here is a mixture of digital as well as analog. So you've got analog light bars on either side for the petrol indicator as well as the battery charge indicator. And then looking down the middle, you've got your speedometer on the right, your battery power and charge meter on the left. And then within those meters itself, you've got various other different points of information. So on the right side, we've got our energy flow meter, so you can see the engine there as well as the battery. And then on the left side, we've got our audio input on there. And you can actually change what you can see on the left side with the button that corresponds on the left side of the steering wheel. So I can have different sort of audio inputs there, as well as an option to customize the display entirely. And then if I flick over to the right side using a similar sort of dial, I can change what I see on that screen there too, which is pretty cool. Now, the key thing which I really enjoyed about this ZR-V screen is actually the little ZR-V icon that you can see in the middle there. If I push the brake lights come on there. If I turn on the indicator lights turn on as well. It's a little gimmicky thing, but I really actually enjoy that fun aspect that Honda have brought to this car. Now, taking a step back and looking at the steering wheel, it is firstly heated. The button's right down the middle there to turn it on. It's leather wrapped, feels nice to hold. The paddles themselves are actually inspired by Honda's legendary NSX, but on this car they don't control the gears or anything. They're used to adjust your regenerative braking. Now, if I take another look here at the buttons, you saw the rotary dials that I used already, but you've got your active cruise control or adaptive cruise control on the right side there, and you've got your audio and phone connectivity on the left side there. And the audio buttons control that quite nice 12-speaker Bose audio system, which sounds really good. Same story at the back here. The seats are again leather appointed, so partly true leather, partly faux leather. The really cool thing is both the side passengers, so this and where I'm sitting, both those seats are heated. Shame about the middle passenger, but at least the space is good for an armrest there, which if you pull down reveals 2 cup holders, and then you also get cup holders or rather bottle holders in both of the doors, plenty of soft touch materials, as well as air conditioning vents and charging points. With that all done, this is a hyped up sporty SUV, so let's take it for a drive and see exactly what's what.
So the Honda ZR-V, I love the use of the ZRs and their HRs and things like that. There's a lot of Vs and things going on, but anyway, this is their latest iteration or their latest SUV, and in all honesty, it doesn't really feel like an SUV when you step inside. It does feel like you're in a sort of car. I know that's one of the big things, it drives like a car, but actually this one feels like a car. It's you feel quite low to the ground, which I guess those lovers of high riding, sort of that feeling of superiority when you're driving an SUV, may find this a little bit odd.
Though at the same time, in the front, yes, you sit low and it feels more sedanish, but sitting at the back, you do definitely get the sense that you're in an SUV, because those rear seats are actually slightly raised over the fronts, and getting in is sort of a step up as opposed to a step down almost.
So top tip, if you're into the SUV ride height, sit in the back. Anyway, see, you hear that here first. The rest of it, it's a very, very smooth ride. I mean, I'm a big fan of we're big fans of the eHEVs, where it does drive like an EV, even though you've got an onboard sort of generator which cuts in. It's not very noisy. The NVH is really good, but on the whole, it just drives like a nice, smooth EV.
Even on a slightly sort of open pore road like this, it's extremely quiet in here, and we can hear each other talking just fine, and you don't need to turn up that 12 speaker Bose audio system too loud to hear your tunes either. The other thing is, speaking of the technologies and stuff like that, we had a little bit of a close shave earlier, but Honda's sensing suite of safety systems keeps you very safe on the road. You've got lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, high beam assist, all sorts of different assists which beep and flash at you to keep you safe. But the really cool thing is the 360 degree camera, actually, which can be activated by one touch of a button.
One touch? Wow. Actually, that touch of a button also could be the reverse thing, which is slightly hidden. It's a bizarre setup. You actually have to sort of put your finger underneath to engage reverse. It's a little bit out of the way. It's another quirkiness of it, but it's pretty funky. Visibility all round is great. I mean, Honda really are going for these big windscreens, and actually the bonnet's got a couple of sort of side bumps to it, so it makes it look that little bit, or that extra sporty. The side mirrors here are really big. You can see everything behind, and even with the rear headrests up, you can actually see a fair amount of the back, so very good as far as that goes.
Yeah, I think the windscreen, actually, you get something like a nearly 90 degree view out or something like that. It's a very impressive number anyway, and really you can see why it's such a comfortable car to drive, and also gives you that sporty feel because you sit nice and low, the seats contain you quite well, and the car itself goes around corners pretty good.
Actually really well. You can hug quite really well, very nicely on it, and I think it's to do with that sort of EV style sort of sportiness underneath. It's very good. I like the added touches of the heated steering wheel and the heated seats. And as far as economy goes, I did a big trip down to the field days down in Hamilton, and I came back with still over half a tank, and that was just going in normal. I didn't even engage economy from there, so it is pretty frugal on fuel. And even if you're frugal and want to put 91 in it,
yeah, 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers is the claimed efficiency, and it's shown its ability to act out in a real world sort of situation, because it is really crunching miles.
The pedals are great, even though they're not obviously for the gears, but you tend to mean that you can take control of the regen and make sure you are getting as much battery capacity going on, even though it is only a small battery, so it doesn't take much to fill it up. But it's quite good to sort of use those and go up and down, and anyway, it gives you that sporty feel. I like them in an NSX. Woo! As Matthew pointed out or showed you, there's actually a ton of space in the back. Even if you are that third person with a neglected, not heated seat, you still actually get a lot of foot room. So the sort of the central tunnel's gone. There's again in a very EV fashion.
And despite the fact that from the exterior at least you can see that sloping roofline, you don't feel it when you're on the inside. Someone like me has still got headroom, so if you're like Dave's height, you'll be just fine.
Headroom to spare. How cool is that? Steering feels nicely weighted, and the steering wheel feels nice in the hand. And as far as the pedals, foot pedals go, again nicely. The other thing I didn't say is when the adaptive cruise control works all the way down to below. I was stuck in traffic going to the field days, stuck it on, it sets at the minimum of 30, but it's still that stop-go traffic really worked very well. And the only thing, when it does actually come to a grinding halt, you do just have to press the accelerator, get going again. But felt really safe, didn't have my foot hovering over the brake pedal too much at all, really. So there you have it, Honda's new ZR-V. It's a sports car that's just, like I said, a dream to drive. I think Soichiro would be very proud. It's got a sporty look and actually a fair amount of oomph when you put your foot down, and just a lot of refinement and luxury around. It's a well put together, nice SUV.
So much so, in fact, that they've just called it a sports car if you pick that up. It makes you feel like that, and when you're on the inside, you feel so covered, enveloped in luxury, frankly. It's really quite unlike anything Honda sell currently, so good work to them.
Nice. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. We'll be around here, and we'll see you on the next one. See ya.